Welcome to your deep dive into ancient Greece. We've got excerpts from 2025 V7 Caradol Ancient Greece.pdf just for you, ready to unearth some fascinating insights. Get ready to explore a world of gods, democracy, and ideas that still resonate today.
It's amazing how much of what we consider modern has roots stretching back to ancient Greece. Their stories, their systems of government, even their language. It's all woven into the fabric of our world.
Okay, let's start with something that really captures the imagination. Greek mythology. Our source mentions how influential these myths are, even in modern movies and video games. What's the draw there, do you think?
It's the human element, I believe. These weren't just stories about gods and monsters. They were explorations of human nature, morality, and our place in the cosmos. Take the 12 Olympian gods, for instance. They squabbled, loved, and schemed, just like us mortals, but with the power to shake the very foundations of the world.
The source specifically highlights Zeus, king of the gods. What made him such a significant figure in the Greek pantheon?
Zeus embodied both the awesome power of nature and the complexities of human leadership. He controlled the sky, thunder, and lightning, making him a force to be reckoned with. But he was also flawed, prone to jealousy and rash decisions, reminding us that even the most powerful figures are not exempt from human failings.
So did the ancient Greeks see their gods as benevolent protectors, or capricious forces to be feared?
It was a bit of both, really. They believed the gods could intervene in their lives both for good and for ill. They built temples, offered sacrifices, and held festivals to honor the gods and ensure their favor. But there was always that underlying tension, that awareness that even the most devout actions might not be enough to appease a displeased deity.
This idea of the gods' influence on daily life, did that shape the ancient Greeks' outlook on things like fate and free will?
Absolutely. Imagine living with the belief that a thunderbolt or a sudden illness could be attributed to a god's anger. It fostered a sense of humility, a recognition of forces beyond human control. But it also fueled a desire to understand those forces, to find ways to appease them and live in harmony with the divine will.
This is where it gets interesting to me. How did this worldview translate into their social and political structures? Our source points to Athenian democracy as a pivotal development. What made it so revolutionary for its time?
Athenian democracy was a radical departure from the monarchies and oligarchies prevalent in other parts of the world. It was based on the idea that citizens, not just a select few, should have a say in how they were governed. They gathered in assemblies, debated laws, and voted directly on matters affecting their city.
But the source is careful to point out that Athenian democracy wasn't exactly inclusive by modern standards.
That's true. Citizenship was limited to free, adult men born in Athens. Women, slaves, and foreigners were excluded from political participation. It's a reminder that even groundbreaking systems can have significant limitations, and that the journey towards a truly inclusive democracy is a long and evolving one.
It makes you wonder how these limitations influenced Athenian society and its evolution. But before we get too deep into that, I want to touch on something else the source mentioned. City-states. Why is this concept so crucial to understanding ancient Greece?
Because ancient Greece wasn't a unified nation-state like we see today. It was a collection of independent city-states, each with its own government, laws, and often its own distinct identity. Athens, with its democracy, was just one of many. You also had Sparta, known for its military prowess, Corinth, a major trading hub, and Thebes, a powerful rival to Athens.
So even though they shared a common language and culture, these city-states were often at odds with each other.
That's right. They formed alliances, competed for resources, and even went to war with each other, sometimes quite brutally. This constant interplay of cooperation and conflict shaped the political landscape of ancient Greece, and in many ways drove its dynamism and innovation.
It sounds like a complex and fascinating web of relationships. I'm already picturing maps with arrows pointing in every direction. But before we get lost in the geopolitics of ancient Greece, I want to dive into something else that's captured my attention: their timeline.
Ah, yes, the ebb and flow of civilizations. The source lays out the major periods, starting with the Minoans and Mycenaeans, who set the stage for the Greece we know today.
What made these early civilizations so important in shaping what came later?
The Minoans, based on the island of Crete, developed a vibrant culture known for its elaborate palaces, art, and trade networks. Their influence spread across the Aegean, leaving an indelible mark on Greek mythology and art. Then came the Mycenaeans, a more warlike people who built impressive citadels and engaged in trade and diplomacy across the Mediterranean. Their legacy can be seen in the epic poems of Homer, like the Iliad and the Odyssey, which tell tales of heroes, gods, and epic battles that have captivated imaginations for millennia.
So both the Minoans and the Mycenaeans laid the foundation for a culture that valued art, storytelling, and, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
bit of adventure.
Precisely. But as with all civilizations, they experienced periods of upheaval and decline. The source mentions the Greek Dark Ages, a period shrouded in mystery, but also a time of significant transformation.
And that name Dark Ages, it sounds pretty ominous. Was it really a time of
Well,
complete collapse?
not entirely. While it's true that the Mycenaean civilization collapsed and there was a decline in literacy and trade, it wasn't a complete societal breakdown. It was more a period of transition, a reshuffling of the deck, so to speak. New technologies emerged like ironworking, and the population shifted, leading to the rise of new city-states and forms of social organization.
It's a reminder that even in periods of supposed darkness, there's often innovation and adaptation happening beneath the surface.
Exactly. And this period of transformation set the stage for what's often considered the most influential period in ancient Greek history, the Archaic period.
From darkness to a new dawn, I'm eager to hear more about this pivotal period. What set it apart from what came before?
The Archaic period saw a resurgence of art, literature, and trade. City-states began to flourish, each developing its own distinct character and vying for power and influence. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes. These city-states emerged as major players, shaping the political and cultural landscape of ancient Greece.
It's fascinating how this period seems to lay the groundwork for the Greece we imagine, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and the arts. But I'm sensing there's even more to uncover. What happened next in this grand narrative of ancient Greece?
That's where we enter what's often considered the pinnacle of Greek civilization, the classical Golden Age. This period, spanning from 480 to 323 BC, witnessed an explosion of creativity, intellectual inquiry, and political innovation. It's the era of the Parthenon, of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, of Athenian democracy at its zenith.
Wow, it's like all the threads we've been following. The mythology, the political structures, the city-states, they all seem to converge in this Golden Age.
You're absolutely right. The classical Golden Age was a time when ancient Greece truly came into its own, leaving an indelible mark on Western civilization and beyond. And I think that's where we should pick up next time, to delve deeper into this remarkable period and its lasting impact.
I'm already hooked. I can't wait to uncover the brilliance of this Golden Age. All right, let's jump right back into this Golden Age. I'm picturing bustling city streets, magnificent temples, and groundbreaking ideas being debated in every corner. Where do we even begin to unpack all this?
Well, one of the most iconic symbols of this period is the Parthenon, a temple dedicated to Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare. It stands on the Acropolis in Athens, a testament to the architectural and artistic genius of the ancient Greeks.
The source describes it as a masterpiece of Doric architecture. What made this style so distinctive?
Doric architecture emphasized simplicity, harmony, and balance. Think strong, sturdy columns, clean lines, and a sense of monumental grandeur. The Parthenon embodied these ideals perfectly. It was a symbol of Athenian power and piety, a tangible expression of their devotion to their patron goddess, and their belief in their own exceptionalism.
It's interesting how a building can become so much more than just a structure. It's a symbol, a statement, a reflection of a whole culture. But the Golden Age wasn't just about grand temples, was it? The source also highlights this as the period when Athenian democracy truly flourished.
Yes, this is when Athenian democracy reached its zenith, influencing political thought for centuries to come. Citizens actively participated in the political process, debating and voting on laws in the assembly. It was a system built on the idea that power should reside with the people, not with a king or a small elite.
Earlier, we talked about the limitations of Athenian democracy, the exclusion of women, slaves, and foreigners. Did these limitations lead to any internal conflicts or societal tensions?
They certainly played a role in the internal dynamics of Athenian society. The source doesn't go into detail on specific conflicts, but it's safe to assume that the exclusion of large portions of the population would create friction and resentment. Even among the eligible citizenry, there were debates and disagreements, factions vying for power and influence.
So it wasn't all harmonious gatherings and unanimous votes. There was a lot of debate and struggle within this democratic system.
Absolutely. Democracy, by its very nature, is a messy process. It involved negotiation, compromise, and sometimes heated disagreements. And Athenian democracy was no exception. But that's also part of its strength. It allows for diverse voices to be heard, for ideas to be challenged and refined. and ultimately for a more resilient and adaptable society.
It makes you appreciate the complexities of democracy, both then and now. It's not a perfect system, but it's a process of constant evolution and striving towards a more just and equitable society.
Precisely. And that brings us to another defining aspect of the Golden Age, the flourishing of philosophy. This is the era of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, thinkers whose ideas continue to shape our understanding of ethics, logic, politics, and the human condition.
Now, I'll admit, philosophy can sometimes seem a bit intimidating,
Uh-huh.
but our source suggests that the ancient Greeks approached it in a very relatable way.
That's right. They thought philosophy as a way of life, a constant process of questioning, examining, and seeking wisdom. Socrates, in particular, was famous for his method of engaging people in dialogues, challenging their assumptions and pushing them to think critically.
And that's the Socratic method we hear about even today. The source mentions it's still used in classrooms and courtrooms. What's so enduring about this approach?
The Socratic method isn't about simply providing answers or dictating truths. It's about asking the right questions, probing beneath the surface, and encouraging individuals to arrive at their own conclusions through reasoned dialogue. It's a powerful tool for learning, critical thinking, and self-discovery, which is why it remains relevant even in the 21st century.
So instead of giving lectures, Socrates was more like a facilitator of deep discussions, nudging people to examine their own beliefs and biases.
Exactly. He believed that true knowledge came from within, from questioning and reflecting on one's own experiences and assumptions. And his legacy lives on in the way we approach education, debate, and even therapy today.
It's amazing to think how an ancient Greek philosopher can still have such a profound impact on how we learn and interact with the world. But Socrates wasn't the only philosophical giant of the Golden Age, was he? What about Plato and Aristotle?
Plato, a student of Socrates, explored a wide range of philosophical topics, from ethics and politics to metaphysics and the nature of reality. He believed in a world of forms, eternal and unchanging concepts that transcended the physical realm. His famous allegory of the cave, which describes prisoners chained in a cave, mistaking shadows for reality, is a powerful metaphor for the limitations of human perception and the importance of seeking true knowledge.
So for Plato, true reality wasn't what we see around us, but something more abstract, something we have to strive to understand through reason and contemplation.
Precisely. And then you have Aristotle, Plato's student, who took a more empirical approach to philosophy. He emphasized observation, logic, and categorization, laying the foundations for scientific inquiry. He wrote extensively on ethics, politics, rhetoric, and biology, leaving behind a vast body of work that influenced Western thought for centuries.
It sounds like these three philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, represent different but interconnected facets of the Golden Age's intellectual revolution.
That's a great way to put it. They challenged conventional thinking, explored new ways of understanding the world, and laid the groundwork for many of the scientific, political, and ethical ideas we still grapple with today.
It's mind-boggling to think how much intellectual firepower was concentrated in that one period of history. But the Golden Age wasn't just about philosophy and politics, was it? What about art and literature?
The Golden Age was a time of unprecedented artistic flourishing. Sculptors like Phidias created masterpieces, like the statue of Zeus at Olympia, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. Playwrights like Sophocles and Euripides wrote tragedies that explored themes of fate, free will, and the human condition, works that are still performed and studied today.
So we have these grand temples, these groundbreaking philosophical ideas, and these timeless works of art and literature, all emerging from this relatively short period of time. It's almost hard to fathom.
That's the beauty of the Golden Age, isn't it? It was a time of extraordinary creativity, innovation, and intellectual ferment. It's a testament to the human capacity for brilliance, and a reminder that even in the midst of conflict and uncertainty, we can achieve extraordinary things.
And it makes you wonder what fueled this explosion of creativity and intellectual energy. Was it something in the Athenian air? Or perhaps something deeper, something about the way they approached life and learning?
I think it was a combination of factors. Athens, at that time, was a hub of trade, attracting people and ideas from across the Mediterranean. It was a society that valued education, debate, and the pursuit of excellence. And perhaps most importantly, it was a society that embraced the spirit of inquiry, a willingness to question assumptions and explore new possibilities.
That spirit of inquiry, that willingness to challenge the status quo, it seems like a key ingredient in any period of great innovation and progress.
Absolutely, and it's something we can learn from the ancient Greeks, even today. Their legacy isn't just about admiring their achievements from a distance. It's about embracing their spirit of curiosity, their passion for knowledge, and their belief in the power of human reason to shape a better world.
It sounds like the Golden Age wasn't just a period of history. It was a mindset, a way of approaching the world that we can still draw inspiration from today.
Precisely. And as we move beyond the Golden Age, into the Hellenistic period, we'll see how that spirit of inquiry and innovation continued to shape the ancient world, spreading Greek culture and ideas far beyond the borders of Greece itself.
I'm ready for the next chapter in this epic journey through ancient Greece.
Yeah.
What did this Hellenistic period bring to the table?
The Hellenistic period was a time of great change and upheaval, marked by the conquests of Alexander the Great and the rise of new empires. It saw the fusion of Greek culture with those of Persia, Egypt, and other regions, creating a vibrant and cosmopolitan world.
So instead of just a collection of city-states, we're now talking about vast empires spanning multiple cultures and continents.
That's right. Alexander's conquest shattered the old order, creating a new political landscape that stretched from Greece to India. And within this new order, Greek culture and ideas played a pivotal role.
So even though the classical city-states were declining, Greek culture was spreading and influencing a much wider world. It's like a cultural ripple effect.
Exactly. The Hellenistic period was a time of cultural exchange and fusion, where Greek language, art, philosophy, and science blended with the traditions of the East. It was a time of great intellectual ferment, as new ideas emerged from this blending of cultures.
This is where it gets really interesting to me. What were some of the key developments that emerged from this cultural fusion? What new ideas and innovations took root during this Hellenistic period?
Well, for one thing, the Hellenistic period saw the rise of new centers of learning, like the
Yeah.
Library of Alexandria in Egypt, which became a repository of knowledge and a hub for scholars from across the ancient world. This led to advances in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and other fields.
So we have this shift from the city-state as the center of intellectual life to these larger, more cosmopolitan centers of learning. It's like a scaling up of knowledge and scholarship.
Precisely. And within these new centers of learning, Greek philosophy continued to evolve, with new schools of thought emerging, like Stoicism and Epicureanism, which offered different perspectives on ethics, happiness, and the meaning of life. These philosophies would go on to influence Roman thought, and ultimately, Western civilization as a whole.
It's amazing to think how these ideas, born from the cultural melting pot of the Hellenistic world, would eventually shape the course of history. But what about the arts? How did this cultural fusion impact artistic expression during this period?
Hellenistic art was characterized by a greater sense of realism and emotional expressiveness. Sculptures became more dynamic, capturing movement and emotion in ways that had not been seen before. Architecture also evolved, with new styles emerging that blended Greek and Eastern elements. Think of the grand city of Pergamon in Asia Minor, with its impressive temples, theaters, and libraries, a testament to the cosmopolitan spirit of the Hellenistic age.
It sounds like the Hellenistic period was a time of both continuity and change. The legacy of the Golden Age was carried forward, but it was also transformed by the influence of other cultures.
That's a great observation. The Hellenistic period wasn't just a fading echo of the Golden Age. It was a dynamic period in its own right, a time of cultural fusion, intellectual exploration, and artistic innovation. And as we transition out of the Hellenistic period and into the Roman era, we'll see how this legacy continued to shape the Western world, leaving an indelible mark on our culture, our values, and our very understanding of ourselves.
I'm eager to see how this Greek legacy played out on the grand stage of the Roman Empire. It sounds like we're reaching a pivotal moment in our journey. But before we step into the world of Rome, I want to take a moment to reflect on the impact of ancient Greece. From those early civilizations to this Hellenistic age, what are some of the key takeaways that we, as modern listeners, can glean from this deep dive?
I think one of the most important takeaways is that the ancient Greeks, despite their flaws and limitations, left behind a legacy of intellectual curiosity, artistic brilliance, and democratic ideals that continue to inspire us today. Their myths, their philosophies, their art, their political experiments, they offer us a window into the human condition, a mirror in which we can see our own struggles and aspirations reflected.
It's a reminder that we're not so different from those who came before us. We're all grappling with the same fundamental questions about life, meaning, justice, and the pursuit of happiness.
Exactly. And the ancient Greeks offer us not just answers, but a way of approaching these questions. A spirit of inquiry that encourages us to challenge assumptions, seek knowledge, and strive for excellence in all our endeavors. Their legacy is not about simply imitating their achievements, but about embracing their spirit, their passion for learning, and their belief in the power of human reason to shape a better world.
It's like they've given us a toolkit for navigating the complexities of life and society, a set of principles and values that can guide us even in the 21st century.
Precisely. And as we move forward in our exploration, I think it's important to keep that toolkit in mind, to see how the legacy of ancient Greece continues to shape our world, even in ways we might not always realize.
I'm ready to continue this journey, to see how the seeds planted by the ancient Greeks took root and blossomed in new and unexpected ways. So we've journeyed from the heights of Mount Olympus to the bustling streets of Athens, from the birth of democracy to the rise of vast empires. Now, as we stand on the threshold of the Roman era, I'm curious to see how this Greek legacy gets woven into the fabric of a new civilization.
The Roman Empire, in many ways, became the heir to the Hellenistic world, inheriting its cultural riches and building upon its foundations. While Rome had its own distinct traditions and values, it also recognized the power and influence of Greek culture.
So it wasn't a complete erasure of Greek culture, but more of an adaptation, a blending of traditions.
Exactly. The Romans admired Greek art, literature, and philosophy, incorporating these elements into their own culture. Roman elites studied Greek, Roman poets drew inspiration from Homer, and Roman emperors commissioned copies of famous Greek sculptures.
It's fascinating how a conquering power can be so influenced by the culture it subdues. What were some of the key areas where we see this Greek influence shaping Roman society?
Well, for one thing, Roman education was heavily influenced by Greek models. Young Romans studied Greek rhetoric, literature, and philosophy, absorbing the ideas and values of the Hellenic world. This had a profound impact on Roman intellectual life, shaping the way they thought about law, politics, and the nature of the universe.
So even though Rome had its own legal and political systems, there was a deep undercurrent of Greek thought influencing those systems.
Absolutely. Roman law, for instance, drew heavily on Greek concepts of justice and natural law. And Roman political thought was influenced by Greek ideas about democracy, citizenship, and the role of the state. Even the Roman pantheon of gods was heavily influenced by the Greek Olympian gods, with many Roman deities having direct Greek counterparts.
It's like the Greeks provided a blueprint for civilization that the Romans adapted and expanded upon. But beyond these formal systems, how did this Greek influence manifest in Roman daily life?
Greek culture permeated Roman daily life in countless ways. Roman theaters staged Greek plays, Roman baths were adorned with mosaics depicting scenes from Greek mythology, and Roman homes were decorated with copies of Greek statues and frescoes. Greek became the language of scholarship and diplomacy, and Greek ideas about philosophy, science, and the arts continued to circulate throughout the Roman world.
It's like a cultural tapestry, woven from both Roman and Greek threads, creating a vibrant and dynamic new civilization. But as we near the end of our deep dive, I want to circle back to that final question you posed. How can we, inspired by the ancient Greeks, create more inclusive and just democratic systems today?
It's a question that continues to resonate as we grapple with the challenges of our own time, the ancient Greeks. With their experiment in democracy, their emphasis on reason and discourse, and their pursuit of a just society, offer us valuable insights, but also cautionary tales.
What can we learn from their successes, and perhaps even more importantly, from their shortcomings?
From their successes, we can learn the importance of civic engagement, the power of reasoned debate, and the value of striving for a system that reflects the will of the people. We can also draw inspiration from their commitment to education, their pursuit of knowledge, and their belief in the transformative power of the arts.
And what about their shortcomings? What lessons can we glean from the limitations of Athenian democracy?
Their limitations remind us that democracy is an ongoing process, a constant striving towards a more inclusive and equitable society. They challenge us to confront the systemic barriers that prevent full participation, to address the inequities that undermine justice, and to ensure that all voices are heard and represented.
So the legacy of ancient Greece isn't just about celebrating their achievements, but also about recognizing their flaws and learning from their mistakes.
Exactly. It's about engaging with their legacy in a critical and nuanced way, using their insights to illuminate our own path towards a more just and democratic world.
It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just a collection of facts and dates. It's a living conversation, a source of wisdom and inspiration that can guide us as we navigate the complexities of our own time.
Precisely. And as we conclude our deep dive, I hope you've gained a deeper appreciation for the enduring legacy of ancient Greece, and that you'll carry with you their spirit of inquiry, their passion for knowledge, and their belief in the power of human reason to shape a better future.
It's been an incredible journey, And I feel like I've not only learned a lot about ancient Greece, but also about ourselves and the challenges we face today.
That's the beauty of exploring history. It not only illuminates the past, but it also sheds light on the present and offers guidance for the future.
So to our listener, we leave you with this challenge. As you go about your day, look for those echoes of ancient Greece all around you. In the architecture of our buildings, in the structure of our language, the principles of our legal systems and the ideals of our democracies. And ask yourself, how can we, inspired by their example, build a future that embodies the best of their legacy while learning from their shortcomings?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of ancient Greece. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.